Hello and welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. This is Andre from PSD Box, and in this tutorial I want to show you how you can retouch a portrait like the one that I have here and turn an image like this into something like this. So again, original and retouched portrait. We will use the frequency separation technique to retouch a bit the face of this man, and then some adjustment layers to get the final color and light effect that you can see on the final result. So let's get started. Great, so before we start, let me show the layers panel that I have here. So you can see I have a few layers that make up my background, then I have the layers of the man and some adjustment layers. This is to crop the man. I have them two separate layers. We'll use the screen blend mode to remove the background, and then we have a few adjustments for the top layer, which is which you can see here. Then we have some stamps, and again these two layers are for retouching the skin using the frequency separation. These two layers are for the frequency separation technique. Then we have some adjustment layers, some stamps, light effects, color effects, and then the final effect and some retouch on the eyes. So the reason why I chose this image, because I like the expression on this man's face. I liked it, so that's why I chose this image. So to start, I already have the image copied on the clipboard. So what I will do is press Ctrl+Command-N and paste the image here. The only thing you have to do is open the image, and you'll have it on a background layer like this, locked. So in order to unlock it and turn it into a normal layer, what you'll need to do is press and hold the Alt key on your keyboard and just double click on the layer, and it will turn it into a normal layer. Let's name this layer Original. And before creating the background, let's let's clone this part of the man's teeth and put them on the other side, because we have this gap here which I don't really like that much. So what I will do is create a new layer, get the clone stamp tool, and you have to open the clone source panel, and you have to go to Window and choose Clone Source. This will open this small panel here, which allows you to change the settings of the behavior of the brush. So what I will do here, what I want to do is flip this on the other side. What I could do is just clone this and put it there and then flip the layer, but it's a lot easier to just click this button here. And what you will do with this is, what you will clone, it will automatically flip it on the horizontal plane. Okay, so what I want to do now is first create a new layer, which I'll name Teeth, and I want to work non-destructively. That's why when I will choose the clone stamp tool, and then here on this drop down list choose current and below. That way we can sample from the original layer but paint on this new empty layer. Okay, so with that setting activated, what I will do is just zoom in just a little more. The hardness of the brush, I want to leave it to about 50%, and increase the size just a bit. The hardness when you use the clone stamp tool depends on if you have hard edges or not. In this case, we do have some hard edges. We have the edges of the teeth itself and then the edges of the lips. So that's why I want to use a harder brush. You can control that a lot better. You can control the edge a lot better. Anyway, since this is on its own layer, we can use the layer mask. So what I will do now is press and hold the Alt key to sample. I'll sample these two teeth here, so I'll click here and then go on the other side and paint roughly. Well, let's sample right from the edge here and then put this on this other edge. Paint like that and do something like this. Okay, now you can see we painted part of this other tooth here. So what I will do is create a layer mask for this teeth layer. I'll decrease the opacity so I can see the original image. I'll decrease it to about 50%. I'll select the layer mask, the brush tool, and here I'll make sure I have a hardness of about 90%, more or less. Zoom in, decrease the brush size a bit, and just paint to reveal the original tooth here. And I'll probably now move this about here, and I'll increase the opacity back to 100%, reselect the layer mask, and now just paint like this. I'll probably now decrease the hardness and repaint the old one back just to see. Okay, and now paint again. Just readjust and paint. Okay, I'll decrease. Make sure you overlap this tooth with a big part of the other one. Now I'll decrease the opacity, and I'll paint. I'll hide that layer just to reveal the original tooth there, and re-enable this layer, and we have it. Okay, now one thing you'll notice that they don't really match, and another thing that I don't like is that this ones seem, well, it's really obvious that this is a clone. So what I will do is use the layer mask to just remove this part here, just the tip, and probably try to give it a shape like that, just so that it is not as obvious that this is a clone. Okay, and another thing we need to do now is adjust a bit the brightness. This one is a bit too dark and these ones are too bright. So what I will do is, with this layer, I will work destructively now. Let's try with the hue saturation. Press Control Command U, but first select the layer, not the layer mask, and just decrease the lightness a bit, something like that. If you decrease it too much, you'll start to see a fake dark tone there, so just a little. If you need to decrease it a little more, you can use levels, because here you can control the contrast, so you can darken the midtones and then increase the highlights a bit to keep the highlights there. Okay, I think it looks nice now. And on the original image, you can see this tooth right here, you can use the dodge tool. I will use it destructively now. It's not a big deal. Just a couple of passes just to make it a little brighter. See that? So I think it looks a lot better now, this than this. So okay, and what I will do now is select both of them, press Control Command E to merge both layers. On the original, I just converted into a smart object, but it's not necessary to do that. I just did that just because I wanted to remember that I actually fixed this part of the mouth. Okay, the next thing that I want to do is retouch the face a bit before I remove the background, and I will use the frequency separation technique. It's really it's a quick technique to use and it's really effective. So what I will do is create two layers by pressing Control Command J twice, and I'll name the middle layer light, and the top layer I'll name it textures, and this one original. So the frequency separation technique, it's a very commonly used technique on retouching. It allows us to retouch the lighting and the color of an image without affecting the textures, because we will have the textures on its own layer, so we can remove skin blemishes on this texture layer without affecting the colors. You'll see it's really easy and it's really effective, as I said. So I will deactivate the top layer for a second, select the lights layer, and I'll go to filter, choose blur, and choose Gaussian blur. So if you look for frequency separation techniques, you'll see that this is how you do it. The amount of blur that you add to your image depends on the size of your image, of course, the size of the canvas. And what you have to look for is details on the face. Let me zoom at 100% because this preview is too small for my taste. What you need to do is look for details on the skin and add enough blur so that you can no longer see the smaller details, like for example the eyebrows. See here the hairs, the individual hairs, these wrinkles. You don't want to see them, okay? But don't add something like this. You still want to see the facial features. So for this particular image, for this image size, I think about 7 or 8, let's add 8. About 8 pixels of blur is enough. So let's click OK. We no longer see the individual hairs. Well, we see these ones, but not on the face. We still keep some of the shadows on the wrinkles, but we don't see each individual line. Now I'll reactivate the textures layer, and I will go to image and choose apply image. And what you need to do here is on the source part here on the top where it says layer, choose the lights texture, the lights layer, okay, this one, and change the blending to subtract. And when you choose this blend mode, you will see two new settings appearing here, the scale and the offset. When you use the frequency separation technique, set the scale to 2 and the offset to 128. So these are the numbers that you need to use. You don't have to understand why these numbers. I don't even know why we have to choose these numbers, but these are the numbers that work. What we need to do now is click OK, and you will see that the result that you will get is pretty much the same result that you would get when you use the high pass filter. The difference with the apply image is that we have an exact value that we subtracted from this layers here. So if I change the blending mode to linear light, you will see that we have exactly the original image. In fact, if I zoom to 100%, if I deactivate the top layers, you'll see nothing changes, because this is an exact copy of the other one. So we are adding the exact amount of detail that we removed with the lights layer. Okay, so here we removed the texture, but we reapplied the texture back on the image. And now we can work on the texture and on the lights and the colors of the image independently. Let's start with the lights layer. So what I will do is I will select patches of skin and I will blur that skin even more. This is a technique that I've seen on Aaron Nate's tutorial of the frequency separation. It's really easy to use. So what he did is he just selected the lasso tool and then increased the feather a bit. And in order to see how much feather you add to your selection, first make a selection and then activate the quick mask option, and you will see how the edge is a bit softer. If it's not soft enough, just deactivate the quick mask, deselect, and then increase the feather a bit, and then reselect and reactivate the quick mask again, and you will see that the edge is a bit softer now. And when you're happy with the softness of your edges, deactivate the quick mask option. Make sure you have the lights layer selected and start selecting patches of skin where you don't like the lighting. Don't care about skin blemishes, wrinkles and stuff like that. Just look for patches of skin where you don't like the lighting or where you have like blotchiness in the skin. I will select this area right here, and now I'll go to filter, choose blur, and then use Gaussian blur. And here I still have the radius, the same radius that I applied to the image. Well, it was 7 or 8. And then I'll increase this to about 20 or something like that. And you'll see how the thing changes there. See that? The light now is a little more uniform. Maybe the radius is a bit too high, so I'll decrease it to about 17 or something like that. And I'll click OK. And now I'll just do the same. I'll select this area here. And instead of going to filter, blur and reapply or choosing this, I'll press Command F on the keyboard and I'll do it a lot quicker. I'll reapply the filter with the same settings. Okay, so select this area, press Command F. Again, this area, Command F. Then here I have a slight shadow that I don't like. I want to smoothen it, so again, I'll select it and Command F. Again, I'll reselect this area here, Command F. Maybe this part here, Command F. This one here. This part I don't really like, Command F. This shadow is quite strong, and the shape of it. I don't really like it, but what I will do is select it and see. Okay, now see it's not that visible now. This part again, Control Command F. I see a shadow here that I don't like how it mixes with this highlight, so I'll select it and press Control Command F and do the same. The transition here from shadow to light can be a bit smoother, so I'll select both, Control Command F, here as well, Control Command F. So as you can see, it's not really difficult. Again, here on the nose, if you select really small areas, make sure you reduce the feather and use a smaller radius on the Gaussian blur. But usually this technique is used to fix bigger patches of skin, not individual details. If you want to do that, use other techniques. Okay, right there. You don't want to abuse this technique because you will make the man look a lot younger than he actually is. In fact, if I deactivate those layers, you will see that we removed a big part of the wrinkles. Okay, but now the lighting is a bit more uniform. So I'll leave it like that and move to the textures layer. Here, what I will do is use the clone stamp tool. So I'll select the clone stamp. Make sure that I have the clone source. I deactivate this option that I activated before. And here, the only thing you need to do is just sample. For example, I want to remove this part here. So what I'll do is press and hold the Alt key, sample from somewhere nearby, click there, and just paint over it. Again, make sure you have set this to current layer. Otherwise, as you've seen, it doesn't work. And that's it. Just paint over that. What happens if I set this to normal? You will see that even, let me set this back to linear light. Even if I select a texture from here, where you see I have this highlight, if I select this from here, I can paint it here and the highlight is not copied. Because if I set this back to normal, you can see we have no color information here. The only thing we have here is grayscales, texture, but we don't have color information. That's why I can paint with the clone stamp tool. Okay, so I just copy textures from one place to another, but I keep the lighting because I have the light information on this lights layer. That's why this technique is so cool. You can work on textures and on lights independently without having to worry about anything. So let's hide parts of the skin that we don't like. You will see that we can even remove hairs with this. So for example, I have this one here, I don't like it. I can sample from here and just paint over it. And the only thing I'm doing is I'm copying texture from here to this part that I don't like. But the lighting is the same because I have the light information on the layer below. Okay, so let's keep moving. Let's keep removing stuff from here on the eye. I don't like this part. Oops, that didn't work. You will still need to adjust your brush size. Okay, so to remove this, oops, that was not good. Okay. Okay, that's a lot better. And here on the nose, here you can spend as much time as you want, removing all the details. For a beauty retouching, you could spend like hours, but I'm doing it a bit quick here. I just want to remove the most annoying details and skin blemishes. Obviously, you don't want to remove the wrinkles. This hair here, we can remove it. See how efficient it is. I'll sample now from this line here and just paint it there, and then remove the hair from there. And that's it. And maybe this one as well. Okay, when you get close to the edges, sometimes it doesn't work. Great, this one as well. And I think we're pretty much done. This part here as well. And we're pretty much done. I will not retouch it more than it is right now. Let me show again the before and after. Before and after. So this is what we achieved using the frequency separation. I did it really quick. I could spend more time, yes, but I don't want to do that. I just wanted to clean a bit the face and keep the textures. And also show you how the frequency separation technique works. Okay, now we're ready to move on. You can do, well, you have several options here. You can select all of these 3 layers and right click and convert all of them into a smart object. You can merge them. For this tutorial, because I want to have less layers, what I will do is merge all layers because, well, but on a project, on a real project, I would probably convert them into a smart object so that I can modify things whenever I want to. But for this tutorial, I think we're okay. Okay, so now that we're done with the skin retouching, we can move on. And what I want to do now is replace this background with something a little more colorful. And what I will do is create a duplicate. Let's rename this layer to original and create a copy by pressing Ctrl Command J, and let's name this normal. What I will do next is create a new layer underneath the original, and I can do that if I press and hold the Command key on a keyboard or the Control on a PC and click this new layer icon that will create the layer below the original layer, and I will name it BG for background. And for that I will use a gradient, so I will go down here and choose gradient, and from the gradient editor I already saved the gradient that I used on the original PSD file, which is this one, and oops, this is what I have. These are the colors that I have, so you can use this color codes to create the same exact gradient that I have. Then on the 37% I have a darker tone of the same color. You can see the color code here if you want to use the same one. And then on the dark part I have sort of a dark, really dark blue tone, and this is the color code that I used for that. I'll click OK, and what I will do is change the style to radial. And we don't see anything yet because we have these 2 layers on top of it, but let me deactivate both of them so you can see it. So this is the gradient that I have. I want to have the brighter part in the center. That's why I set this to radial, and if you need to, you can click inverse and reverse, and you'll have something like this. And what I will do is increase the scale a bit, not too much, something like that. We can modify this after we remove the background, because I want to have the spotlight right here behind this man here. So what I will do next is deactivate the normal layer for a second, select the original, and we have a dark background. That's not random. I chose this photo because of that, because it has a dark background, the hair is white, and I can use the screen blend mode to remove this background, and you'll see what happens. Okay, this is what happens. The background is no longer there, well, most of it, and we still have the hair information. We will use this to kind of mask this. You'll see it. And what I will do now is add a levels adjustment on top of the original, so between the normal and the original layer, and I'll clip it. Right click and choose create clipping mask. That way this adjustment will only affect the original layer. And what I want to do now is this background was not completely black. It was dark gray. See, it was not completely black. And what I will do with this levels layer is I want to darken this even more, because that way when I choose the screen blend mode, the dark area will go away. Because right now if I choose screen, you will see that, not the levels, the layer itself. If I choose this, if I set it to screen, you can see it's kind of white, because it was not completely black. And that's why I will use this levels adjustment to darken the background even more. Now, something about there where the spike begins, and maybe I'll darken a bit the midtones as well. Okay, and maybe I'll rise just slightly the highlights to brighten up the hair just a little. Okay, and this is the effect that we get. I'll reactivate the normal layer now. Make sure they're both one on top of the other one. Exactly, not even a pixel of difference. If you want to make sure they don't move, you can select both of them and choose right click and select link layers. Okay, that way when you move one of them, both will move at the same time. And now I'll create a layer mask for the normal layer, and I will select, actually I'll use the quick selection tool because it's a lot easier. I'll select the man, so just select the man like that with the quick selection tool. It goes a little slow because I'm recording at 1080p, and this document size is, well, it's quite huge. It's 5,000 pixels. I'll probably end up reducing the size if it starts to run really slow. We'll see that. What I will do is speed up the video, because I can see it goes a little slow. So I will speed up the video and show you how I select this with the magic wand, with the quick selection tool, sorry. Okay, so this is the rough selection that I have of the man. I have this part here, which I didn't see. If you have a selection like, for example, this, and you want to deselect this part here, you can press and hold the Alt key on the keyboard and just paint like that, and you will remove the selection from this area. Something like that. Well, after we refine the edge, we'll see how it looks. I'll select the layer mask now, and I'll choose refine edge. If it comes out like this, all you need to do is cancel that and press the Shift and Alt and press the I key on the keyboard, or go to select and choose inverse, and that's it. And then press again the refine edge, and here we are. Let's change the view to on layers, so we can see the original background there. Remember, the reason why we are seeing this background is because we have the original set to screen. Okay, let me set this on white, just so on black, so you can see what I'm doing, or maybe black and white like this, so we can see the edges better, and then look at how it looks on the original background. So here are the edges that I have. What I want to do is shift this a little bit to shrink the selection, and then increase a bit the feather, and then the contrast. What you do with the smooth setting is, if you have corners or something like that, like here for example, if you increase the smoothness, it will become more, see that? It smoothens the corners a bit, so I just want a little bit, not too much. Let's set the output to layer mask and click OK, and then we can refine this. Let's take care of the edges now. I'll select the brush tool, have the color set to black, and I'll set the opacity and flow to 100%, hardness to about 50 or 60%, and we'll adjust the brush size as we go. So what I will do is I want to mask this. You will see that even if I do something like this, we can still see the underneath layer, which is this one. Okay, that's why you don't need 100% precision here, but I'll do your best anyways. If you have highlights on the edges, like for example here, you see this line here, see this line here. If you have this line, it's a lot easier because you have more room for error, for mistakes. Let me show you. See, this is not as visible as, for example, here. If you mask this too much, you will see an empty space there. But since this is brighter, we can see a lot better. Let's fix it. Let's paint back, and now switch colors with the X key and take care of the edges. Let's paint with white here to bring back some of the man's clothing here. Okay, let's bring back some of the clothing here, not too much. Okay, see, all this detail is from the underneath layer, see that? Okay, everything looks good here. Well, we need to bring back some of the information here and here on the sleeve. But you can see I'm doing it quite fast. I'm not worrying too much about the edges. And maybe, some of it here. On hard edges where you don't have details like hair here, you have to be a bit more careful. Great. Let's see this other side. We need to bring back this part, switch colors, and maybe decrease the hardness a bit so that I have a better transition. So adjusting the brush size is necessary depending on the area that you're painting, because on some parts you need a smaller brush, and on some parts you need a bigger brush. Okay, this looks good. I have another area right here. Here I need to remove some background, see that? Well, on this part everything looks okay. Well, we still have this part here, and then with black remove this part. It's just a matter of switching colors and painting everything. Okay, so I think we're done. Take a good look at all the edges, because after that we will merge this, and it will be a pain in the ass to just delete everything if you forgot an area or something, just having to come back here and do it and then redo your job. So before you move on, make sure everything is okay on the edges. Okay, let's move on with the hair. This is really easy here. All you need to do is use the black color on the same layer mask on the normal layer, use a soft brush, really soft brush, and paint with black on this. Wherever you see black on the hair, just paint and remove it. And you can we still see the hair. That's because we have it on the layer here below. If the hair has another color, if it's like black or something like that, this technique will not work. Well, you need to use another technique, like for example calculations, to extract it. So you need to use other masking techniques for masking hair, but for this picture it works perfectly. See that? We have all the hair, it's there without losing anything there. What I do want to do is change a bit, add some texture on the background. You can see this solid background wall is okay, but depending on the transition that you have, on the colors that you use, you might have some bending, which are these lines there. You can see the circular lines around this. And if you add a bit of texture, you help diffusing this line. So what I will do is add a pattern layer on top of the background. So let's choose pattern, artist surfaces. Oh, this one looks nice. Since it's black and white, I will use the multiply blend mode. You can try soft light as well, but this one seems to work. Let's try soft light. With soft light, it will become a lot brighter because we have a lot of white on the pattern itself. But I'll choose multiply. And of course, I'll reduce the opacity to about, let's say 10. Looks okay. And let's add another one. Oh yeah, I think I like more the color paper than the first one. Let's try the multiply blend mode again. And when you use patterns, always look at your image at 100%. It looks a lot better. You will see exactly how it looks. This one is too dark. Yeah, I like this one. I don't know how it's called. Let's see the name of it. Green with fibers. So go to patterns 2 and choose green with fibers. Let's leave multiply. You can also leave it on normal and just reduce the opacity a lot. About 10% looks okay. Let's re-enable the bottom one to see how it looks. And just mix both textures, but I don't like this one very much. I'll probably use another one from the same pack, from the same set there. This one also has color, so be careful with the opacity. Yeah, I think I like this one. Lower this to about 6. I just want to have just a bit of texture there. Okay, the background looks okay to me now. If you want to make it darker, if you don't want to change the background, you can add a levels adjustment and simply darken the part of the image that you want. For example, I can make the spotlight a bit brighter and then use the sliders to darken a bit the outer area. Okay, we're done with the retouching, so let's make some adjustments to our normal layer, which is this top part of the man layer. So what I will do next is add a series of adjustments, and I will clip them to the normal layer because I only want to affect this layer, not the background or the patterns that I have there. So the first thing that I want to add is a color balance, and I'll right click and choose create clipping mask. You can also do that if you press and hold the Alt key and put the mouse between the two layers, and you can see how if you click you can clip or unclip the adjustment to the layer below it. And well, I'll give you the numbers that I have here, even though you can use whatever values you want depending on the color of the background, but the values that I have looked okay for the background color that I have there. So I have for the shadows, I only modified the reds and cyan. I have -6 for this. Okay, then I switched to the midtones and I have here -6. Then for the magenta and green, -2. And for the yellow and blue, I have +4. Okay, and then I have for the highlights on the cyan and red, -12. Then magenta and green, +4. And for yellow and blue, +13. Okay, so let me show the effect that this has on our image. We made it a little colder. Okay, that's the kind of effect I was looking for because I have this sort of greenish background, so I want to have something a bit similar to the background. Then I have a gradient map, again clipped to the normal layer. That's why you can see we only affect the layer underneath. And then I chose the photographic toning set. I will not save this. And I used the cobalt iron 2. Let me see which one is. Let's switch this to small list or large list because we can see it a lot better. This one, cobalt iron 2. Okay, so this is the gradient that I have. And I switched the blend mode of this to lighten. I'll reduce the opacity to 10%. And there's not much of a change, you can see it. If I increase this, I'll actually put it to about 20. Okay, see the effect that it has, especially on the skin and on the shadows more than anything. Okay, see that? It's not a big change, but it's enough for what we're looking for. Then I added some curves, again clipped to the layer below. And here I went into each channel and I made a few adjustments. Maybe increase the blue amount on the shadows and lower this on the higher part of the graphic here. So I add a little more yellow to the highlights area. Okay, see the difference? We made the face a little yellower, not too much. Then on the green, I don't remember the exact settings that I have here, just making it by eye. I'll increase a bit the greens on the shadows, and on the highlights I want to leave this touching this line here, which is a sort of the zero line if you want to. If you drag this below the line, you will add magenta, because the opposite of green is magenta. So I'll leave it probably there. Too much green on the shadows, a little less. Okay, see this? And then go to the reds, and here we are playing with cyan and red. So if I drag this down, I add cyan, and if I drag it up, I add red. Okay, and here on the left we have all the shadows. You can see we have a lot of shadows and not that many highlights. So let's see what we can do. Maybe add a little bit of cyan on the shadows and maybe on highlights as well. Well, not too much. I don't want to, I'm looking here at the color of the beard. I want to have it pretty much how it is, not too blue and not too red either. I'll probably leave it like this. Okay, so see the change. Let's go back to the green and probably add a bit more of magenta on the face and a bit more, the green, a bit of green on the face and on the midtones as well. See that? And on the blues, I'll probably drag this a little higher up and something like that. Small changes, don't make something very dramatic here, because we want something natural. And the last adjustment that I made to the man, to the normal layer, is a vibrance adjustment layer, again clipped. And here I reduced the vibrance quite a lot and then increased the saturation. I know, I kind of like this effect, I don't know why, but it's kind of a crossed effect and I like it. Okay, see the before and after. Okay, let's move on and add more adjustments, but this time not clipped to anything. Just add them on top of everything. That way we affect the background and everything. So first adjustment that I want to add is a color lookup, and I'll choose the teal orange plus contrast. Okay, I'll leave this blend mode, the normal one, but I'll decrease the opacity. To about 30% or something like that. You can see it adds a bit more contrast and it kind of makes it look a bit different. Maybe it's too strong. Let's leave it at 25, something like that. These numbers depend on everything that you've made so far. So if you use a darker background, maybe you want different kind of numbers, because for example, if you have a brighter background, maybe a higher opacity on the color lookup looks better. So it's up to you and what you've done so far. And then a couple of gradient maps. The first one is, let me reset this, reset and change back to small thumbnail. I used this gradient and I used the hard light blend mode, but I changed a bit this color. Let me first decrease the opacity a lot, something like that. And I want to change this color, it's too strong for my taste, so I desaturated slightly, something like this. Okay, and opacity, let's say about 10. Yeah, that looks nice to me. And then another gradient map. This time I'll choose this blue, red and yellow, and I'll change the blend mode of this to screen. Of course it's too strong, so let's see, about 10. It's even too strong, about 5%. Yeah, it looks good. It adds a bit more of light. Probably the background is too dark with this levels. I maybe darkened it too much, but well, anyways. And this is the adjustments that I added. Next thing that I want to do is, we're pretty much done with this. I'm happy with everything here. I don't want to make any other changes. So what I will do next is create a stamp. Make sure when you create the stamp that everything is okay, because if you create the stamp now, we will merge all the layers, and if you want to make a particular change to only the man but not the background, it will be a little harder, so you'll have to delete this and do the change and then create the stamp again. So everything that we will do here on the stamp, you'll have to do it again. You can of course create smart objects and then use smart filters, and then you can copy those filters to the stamp that you create after you fix the problem that you had there. But anyways, I'm sure that everything is okay now, so I'll create this stamp. I'll convert this into a smart object. So what I want to do with this is smoothen the skin a bit. Actually, it's not necessary to convert this into a smart object, but well, for this tutorial, I'll leave it like that. It's always better to work with smart objects if you can, because it's a good thing to work non-destructively. So with this layer created, I'll go to filter and choose oil paint. This is a technique that I used on other tutorials, and well, it's a nice effect that you get here on the skin. I like it. This is too extreme, so I'll probably decrease the stylization. I'm looking especially here on the skin. I'm not worried too much about the face, about the dress, the dressing or the hair. I just want to smoothen a bit the skin. Of course, we will not leave it like this because it's not looking nice at all. But anyways, I'll reduce the cleanliness a bit. Something like this. We can work on this further. But anyways, one important thing is to have the shine set to 0. Otherwise, you'll have like 3D effects, which we don't want. So I'll leave the shine to 0. These settings are okay for this canvas size. If you have another canvas size, you should use higher settings. I'll probably leave it like this and click OK. What happens once you apply this filter is that you lose highlights. If I add a levels adjustment, you will see that we have a gap here on the highlights. It always happens when you apply the filter, this oil paint filter. So all you need to do is increase this a bit to recover those highlights. What I will do though is, I'm pretty happy with this effect. So I'll rasterize this layer. I don't want to have that as a smart object because I want to use these levels without having to create a layer there. So this time working destructively. Okay, so in order to get rid of this effects here, what you can do is use the mixer brush tool. This is, as I said, I used the tutorial where I explained this in a bit more of depth. But what you can do with this, you set some settings here. Make sure you have this setting checked to clean the brush after each stroke, and then it's just brush like that, keeping the highlights and everything, just to kind of remove these effects and mix the texture and get a sort of a softer effect. We will decrease the opacity of this layer because we don't want to lose the wrinkles, but on some parts of where the skin is a bit smoother, I want to have it with this effect. You can even create sort of cartoon or cartoonish effects with this if you're patient with this. I'll probably make a sort of a tutorial for that, but because I see a great potential there. Adjust the brush size. Now these settings work, but you probably have to tweak them depending on the image that you have, and I'm doing this really quick. I would spend here a bit more time taking care of all the details and everything. Here on the mouth is we lose all the detail on the teeth, but as I said, we will decrease the opacity of this. Okay, this is the result. Let me deactivate so we can see the before, the original, and this. It looks really nice, but of course it's too extreme. If you want to go with this effect, it's okay. But I want to have something a bit more realistic, so I'll decrease the opacity to about 60%. See this? It's a lot better than this. And the effect is not that obvious. Okay? And I will now, since I want to use this layer to add more filters, I will now turn this into a smart object. You can create another, well, actually no, because we have the opacity set to 60%. So what I will do is create another stamp, pressing Shift, Alt, Control, and E. This will merge all the layers into a new layer. And I will now convert this into a smart object. By the way, if you cannot use the keyboard shortcut, what you can do is go to Select, choose All, then go to Edit, Copy Merged, and then Edit, Paste. And you will see that you have exactly the same result. Okay, I will name this Light because I will use the lighting filter here. So I'll go to Filter, Render, and choose the lighting effects. And here I'll use a simple spotlight. Let me reduce the zoom a bit so we can see it. Okay, I'll use this big spotlight. You can use a big spotlight like this and then reduce a bit the hotspot if you want to have more light here on the center. What I want to do though is increase a bit the exposure, decrease the glossiness, increase a bit the ambience. The edges are a bit too dark for my taste, so probably, maybe, let's see if I increase the hotspot. Yep. Probably increase a bit the exposure. And I'll click OK. Let's see the effect. Okay, so before and after. We just added a slight shadow there. I will probably add a bit more light here on the center, but, well, I can do that since I have this as a smart object. Can increase the intensity just a bit. Something like that, and click OK. Now it should change. Yeah, so that's, we have more light here. Be careful not to burn the highlights. Here we kind of burnt a bit the highlights, but well. Next, I will want to change a bit the eyes, make them stand out a little more, so I'll create a new layer. Get the brush tool. Make sure I have the flow and opacity to 100%, zoom in, change the brush size to more or less the size of the eyes, like this, and the hardness at about 70 or 80%, and choose a color similar to the eyes. I think these eyes are brown, but this one here I can see it's kind of blue, so I'll use the blue color. We can change that anyways after we do it. So what I will do now is just click once there to add the color. My computer is starting to run a little slow, and click there once again. So we have the color. Change the blend mode to soft light. You can try other blend modes. Maybe overlay will look better. Now create a layer mask and use the same brush but with hardness set to 0 to remove on the layer mask, paint with black on the layer mask to remove this edges a bit, because we have the edges of the eyes that they should not have any kind of color on them. Also, here in the middle we should remove the color there as well. So just remove the color on the center of the eye and in the middle. See that? Now, of course, this is too extreme, so I would probably use now, select the layer itself, press Ctrl Command U, to open the hue saturation, and here you can change the color of the eyes however you want. You can use the hue saturation to change. You can use the hue slider, to change the color of them, and maybe probably decrease a bit the saturation. Yeah, increase the lightness and saturation a little lower. Of course, you can also use the opacity of the layer itself to do that. I will leave them blue, or maybe a little towards green. Yeah, I like this. Okay, so before and after. If it's too strong, just decrease the opacity of the layer a bit. So this is the final effect. Let me show you the original image again, which is this one, before and after. So that's how I edited this portrait. If you want to export this, like let's say save this for the web or something, what you can do to make it look a bit better is, I'll make a stamp just so you can see it better. If you want to sharpen this, you can go to Filter, Artistic, and choose Paint Daubs. I don't know, it's a sharpening filter that I really like. It's different than using the unsharp mask filter, and I don't know, for me it's a different effect and I like it better. I'll click OK, and if the effect is too strong, go to, once you apply the filter, just don't even move the image, go to Edit and choose Fade Paint Daubs. Or if you're applying this on a smart object, you'll have the option there to change the opacity of the filter. But I'm using the fade, so what I can do here is diminish a bit the effect of the filter. Okay, before and after. So I'll click OK, and this is the result. See, now it's a little sharper. Again, let me show the original image, before and after. So we've used the frequency separation technique to retouch the face. We changed the color of the eyes, cloned the teeth there to make it look a little more realistic, to make it look a little better. We changed the background, keeping all the details on the hair, and create some nice color and contrast adjustments to have this effect. So well, that's all for today. I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you have any questions, just post a comment or send me an email. Take care and see you next time.